jobs. We need $20 million in EBITDA. You don't understand.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious.
This is why I left my fucking job that I love so much, because I needed this kind of bonus plan, motherfuckers.
We can hear you.
That was entertaining. I don't know who it was, but
Good morning, everyone. I am Ron Ford, and it is 10 o'clock. I mean, yeah, it should be 10 o'clock. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock.
It's on time, huh?
Yeah, and we're starting our King County Development Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman's here.
Doherty,
right here.
Iqbal,
Iqbal present.
Kenyon, Linder, Davist,
Davist here.
Caius,
Caius present.
Williams,
Williams here.
Ford,
Board President.
Tepe.
Tepe here. All right. Moving on, can I have approval of minutes from February 21st of 23?
Linder moves.
Williams second.
All right, we have a motion to second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Davist,
Davist, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Yes.
All right, moving on, monthly financials. I know we have them on file.
Linder moves to put the financials in file.
Well, we gotta do that, we can do that at the end, but
Okay, so I move to
They're
approve.
attached.
Is that better?
they're attached, yeah. Yeah. All right. Public comments, I believe, and this is someone else here for something that's not on the agenda. We'll give you a chance to speak when we get those subjects. Is that okay? So any other public comments online that's not, what's not on the agenda? All right, so we'll move on to our building and zoning division. And coming up is our mining proposal text amendment to the King County zoning ordinance.
Good morning, Mark Van Kerkhoff. And first, I'd like to just cover a couple of things in our building and zoning report. One, it is now officially spring, so we do expect an increase both in building permit activity and in property maintenance calls due to people getting outside and realizing things that they hadn't noticed while they've been hibernating inside. And just the increase in things starting to grow and people being outside more usually generates additional activity. Related to that, I'm very pleased to follow up my announcement from last month that we have 2 of our 3 property code enforcement unit or division personnel in place. Colin Miller, I introduced last week as our property code inspector. Colin, if you want to stand up again, just so they can see you. And he's now joined officially by John Mall. And John is our first ever property code enforcement officer. And between the 2 of them, John is heading up the division. We'll be adding an admin support staff to them hopefully soon. John will be be the primary contact with the various departments working on property code enforcement, Jody Walnick, Health Department, and also working with our state's attorney and sheriff's office. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be having individual meetings with those departments to meet and greet and get them caught up on what procedures each department has and areas that they cover, as well as getting up to speed on some current cases that we have. They're already moving ahead on following up on new complaints that are coming in. Those don't stop. And we'll continue to get them up to speed on existing cases. I will be sending out, hopefully later today, to all the county board members their contact information. landline phone, cell phone, and email. If you could please direct any concerns you have to John initially, he will be kind of parsing those out between him and Colin in terms of follow-up. And of course, I'll be continuing to work with them as Director Welnick will be. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us as well. We're very grateful to have be building this team, and I think we're all excited about the impact that they're going to have on responding to constituent concerns in a more timely manner than we've been able to in the past. The other announcement I have is that over the last several weeks, we've been implementing a new version of our CityView software that we use for building permitting, other departments use for permitting. And I want to really thank IT, especially for their work and support during the transition, as well as the participation of other departments. And then especially want to thank our own team in the building division. There were some unanticipated actions that needed to be taken from permits that were already entered in the system that needed to be mended or fixed in the transition in order to continue processing those. So there was some additional extra work on our team, but they're working well together, and we're so far pretty pleased with the outcome. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, I'll then move on to the memos.
All right, any questions or comments from Mark? All right, we'll move on to number 2.
Great, thank you. The first memo in your packet is for draft text amendments to the King County zoning ordinance. The first step in text amendments for new board members is we typically bring on a staff level those proposed amendments to you as the County Development Committee. If you concur, we would then next publish them and schedule them for a public hearing in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then bring them back in a resolution form to Development Committee, and then on to the full board for amending our county zoning ordinance. This morning, what we have for you is a little bit unusual section of our zoning ordinance. Gravel mining operations are a special use in the F district farming. Those need a petition and then go through the county board process like other petitions to get the special use. The zoning ordinance also calls for active mines to have a mining license, and the requirements for the mining license is also contained within the zoning ordinance. And within those requirements, there are restrictions on hours of operation. There are currently a relief valve or an exception to those hours by emergency operations only, which can be determined by the county engineer. And we have utilized those in the past during extreme situations, including COVID. One of the things that's developed since these regulations came to be were changes in mining operations, type of equipment that's available, particularly addressing noise. So we've had some requests from one of our mining operators who's implementing some of those equipment to be able to have extended hours. The staff has been working with them and with Dale Berman and Chairman Ford and with KDOT on how we might have an additional process for extending those hours. So what you have this morning is a proposed text amendment on the second page of the memo. The existing language is the first section under number 8 there. And then the proposed new language is underlined, basically stipulates that variations could be granted by you as the County Development Committee, as well as rescinded if there were issues with sound or noise or anything with those extended hour operations. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time or ask for your consensus to send this on to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
A question.
Go ahead.
You're talking about new and quieter equipment. Is it so quiet that we're not going to have neighbors banging on our door?
Sure, that's the goal. And our work towards doing this, the operator who's requesting this has been providing us with pretty sophisticated sound studies for their operation. So, well, this text amendment, would be applicable potentially to any of our gravel mining operations. That would be the standard, and the type of information we'd be looking to have an operator come to use the County Development Committee with evidence that the equipment will not increase the noise in the area.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Caius.
Yeah, and along those lines, because it is up to the neighbors and the people that are around there that are affected by this. I guess I think I'm trying to formulate this in my head that it says that it will not negatively impact public health or safety and welfare, which is really broad. I mean, that's a huge area. Mostly it's complaints of sound and you'd say, I guess when you say that they're not going to have it be loud, well, they aren't able to operate now, so it's going to be louder than whatever it was, I'm guessing, unless there's no sound at all for the evening. But because this is between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. overnight, right? And there's no mining allowed right now. So no matter what they do, it's going to be louder than what it was.
Correct. Yeah, during those times. So that's why we're looking for, number one, they could ask for an extension of hours, any window beyond that up to 24/7. And they would need to demonstrate how it wouldn't impact those and then continue monitoring. And that's why we built in a process for which the development committee could also rescind that if it ended up being problematic.
Is there a numerical sonogram or something you could do to measure that the sound is working? It's complaint driven.
So it is currently the company that's proposing this is measuring the sound with pretty sophisticated decibel levels in different locations. Whether that's the case for any operator, that would be each operation would have to request its own and provide its own evidence for the development committee. So rather than make a blanket extension of the hours, it would be by request and based on evidence and a continued track record.
Now, if I remember right from the meeting, a lot of this really gets down to what type of equipment it is. It's a different type of equipment than what's normally used. That does not need to be loud to operate. Is the equipment itself.
Correct. That's one of the aspects of it.
Yeah.
Like underground, something.
Or electric power drag line in the water as opposed to above ground.
Because we've had some modifications for, well, I think it was Lafarge, didn't we, over here during the emergency?
Yes, that's correct.
Which they adjusted their lights so that they weren't bright, and they got rid of the backup beepers, the loud backup beepers and things like that.
Correct.
So-
And those are among the things that we'd be looking for someone requesting this to demonstrate they were implementing.
All right, we had another question.
Thank you, Chairman. Mark, how often do we get noise complaints about the operations at our gravel mines?
We have not had any in the last several years.
What about lighting and dust emissions? I mean, and we're talking about sound, but there are other side effects of a mining operation. And, I'd be concerned about, keeping our skies in the western townships darker at night. What would we do to control that?
Sure. So those would be part of that requests that they would show. That's why, I mean, it is broad, but that's generally how zoning language ends up being in terms of not negatively impact public health, safety, and welfare. So those typically with gravel mining operations, those are the items tend to be sound and dust and lighting. So those things would need to be part of the request from the operator.
And has the state's attorney's office reviewed this proposed amendment yet?
They have not.
Where is the mining operation of the people who've requested this change?
The request is from Wholesome Lafarge, who had the emergency operation request. So they're looking for ways to continue that, those extended hours past the emergency.
And where are they mining?
Currently in King County, they are my unincorporated King County, they are on Route 47. Out in the western townships, they also operate a facility within the village of South Elgin.
South Elgin, McLean.
Yes.
Dust there is awful.
Did you say without complaint?
All right, hold on. We got another question back here. Go ahead.
No, it's Berman. My comment, we went through the same type of thing in the mine in Village of North Aurora. And the testing of noise and whatever, and they've done a fantastic job of doing. This ordinance says that, it can be, if they violate this, it can be withdrawn. So
Yeah.
it's not, it's not something that can't be changed, but I think that in the past, they've demonstrated that the testing for noise and they'll keep it under that
So,
decibel level.
yeah, so as you think about this, don't think about what we know from historical mining. This is something totally different, more technology. The process is totally different than what we used to hearing hearing about or seeing. So it's about the equipment itself and it's electrical way of mining than doing the hardcore. We think about the blasting and all that kind of stuff. This is totally different. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a consensus to move this forward, considering it has to go before the state's attorney office also?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So you want to move on to?
Sure. The second memo is related also to what will most likely be a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. Some of you may have been following the state of Illinois at the end of the last session passed a new public act which changes and limits the controls that or authority that counties have over siting wind and solar facilities that are of a commercial grade. We don't have proposed text amendments included with the memo because that's still a bit in flux. There's a number of trailer bills out there to try to remedy what many counties see as problematic, including Kane County, particularly when it comes to negative impacts on drainage and ability to utilize conditions under our stormwater ordinance. The Illinois Farm Bureau has proposed a draft amendment, which we're taking a close look at. I'm going to be attending a meeting that's being convened next Monday down in Springfield, also to go over the latest on what was adopted in the Public Act and what may be proposed to be changed. There is a matter of timeliness on this, which is why we're including this for information, but we may, given the timing of the language in the Public Act and depending on what gets changed, may need to work with our state's attorney's office to come up with a text amendment and get that published quickly to get in front of our zoning board and then to development committee and the full board for adoption. So might need to be a little bit of an expedited process. And I want to thank our state's attorney's office for joining and working with us on this, as well as Director Welnick for really pinpointing the concerns with drainage for our drainage districts and for our stormwater ordinance. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions? All right, seeing none. Go ahead and move on.
Okay, next we have our zoning petitions. And petition 4598, rezoning F District Farming to B3 District Business with a special use for a landscaping business. This has been tabled and continued at the last two meetings. Staff is going to recommend that this be tabled hopefully just one more time. The petitioner has been trying to address concerns and questions raised by the zoning board, neighbors in the village of Montgomery. They did retain a new site plan person to help to illustrate those changes. We received that just as we were preparing the agenda for this month and recommended be tabled so that we can circulate this new plan among our departments and the village of Montgomery before bringing it back to you next month.
Good.
Then I think you need a
Go ahead.
motion to do that.
I don't, do we need a motion? No, not the table. Yeah, we do. Okay. Do I get a motion to second the table this? All right.
Second, Williams.
We have a motion second.
This is,
Kenya Williams to table it. Yeah. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty. Iqbal,
Doherty, yes.
Yes.
got you, Doherty. Thank you, Iqbal. Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Just tabled.
All right, then move on to petition 4604.
Yes, petition 4604 rezoning from F district farming to F1 district rural residential to allow a new home to be built on the property. This is located on the north side of Winters Road. On our 2040 plan, it's an area that is planned for agriculture. You can see in our zoning map, everything in white is zoned F district farming for agriculture. You do see there's quite a few other F1s, which is our district for being able to split off a home and farm buildings from the rest of the acreage, which would normally require 40 acres for that. The F1 allows that to be zoned just right around the home and buildings itself. This is its location. It's they're actually rezoning part of this L-shaped parcel to the F1. Now here it is on the aerial. You can see it as an area predominantly used for farming. There's a close-up of the site and another close-up. And you can see there is a drainage ditch just to the west and then Winters Road to the south. Here's the plat showing the area to be rezoned. It would be 1.15 acres. Staff recommended comments. The health department has comments regarding needing to meet current well and septic. Water Resources has comments regarding stormwater permit and relative to the floodplain. Subdivision comments is that it is a zoning parcel and it would not be a separate parcel from the overall parcel. If they were to want to do this in the future, they would need to create the new physical lot using the subdivision ordinance. Staff recommended comments. The rezoning will allow for a single-family home to be constructed on the property. This was not applicable to the Regional Planning Commission. Zoning Board of Appeals approved with the recommended staff stipulations, and it's before you this morning for your consideration.
Berman moves for approval.
Kenyon with second.
All right, so we have motion to second. Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Caius, question.
Caius.
It's, one of the stipulations is that it would be, that anything in the floodplain would be used, would be designated in the, in a land, wildlife easement or a floodplain easement,
Yes, a conservation easement.
conservation easement. I'm sorry. And is it part of it or all of it in? I know there's no basement or.
Very little of the lot is in the floodplain and it's a small sliver along the western area. So it'll more affect, because it is adjacent to the floodplain, the elevations of the home to be built.
Okay.
This
So-
is Jody Walnick with Water Resources.
There wasn't a map or anything in there that I missed. Okay, great. Thanks.
So this has to come back again, though, to at least to staff when they get ready to have the house placed there.
Well,
Yeah, so the zoning would give them the ability to apply for permits to construct a new single-family home, and then all the technical requirements for stormwater management, floodplain, well and septic, building codes, all those would need to be met.
All right, okay. Go ahead.
It's Linder. This is 1.5 acres. If they were applying to subdivide the entire farm, what's the minimum lot size there?
Good question.
Sure. So the minimum lot size in the F district is 40 acres. So in theory, if somebody had 80 acres, they could subdivide it into two 40-acre parcels and build a new single-family home on each parcel without rezoning. Anything less than 40 acres would need rezoning to an F1.
Right. And I guess my question was if we had a petitioner wanting to develop the whole thing into residential, and so they were going for a zoning change to a residential, what would our minimum lot size be?
That would depend on what residential district they wanted to rezone to. And it would need to involve the entire parcel and
I'm just wondering if a 1.5 acre is typical, or would our typical be less or greater than that?
sure, that's a great question. So the minimum lot size for an F1 rezoning is 1 acres. That's flexible in order, the idea is to minimize the loss of productive farmland. So in some cases, if it's an existing farmstead, it's typically matches the area that's not being farmed. In this case, they're minimizing it to 1.15 acres to be just over the minimum, but to minimize the loss of farmland.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
In the
Chris.
1 acres is, this is Caius again, the 1 acres more for, because it'll have to have septic. You have to have a minimum for septic.
The zoning ordinance stipulates that that is the minimum lot size for an F1 lot, but it does, I mean, we, as staff, when we work with these petitioners, we have them show that, you know, the lot size proposed will be large enough for the home, the well and septic, all those things that need to sustain the house.
Thank you.
It's not easy, putting a house or a structure next to anything to do with floodplain, so it's gonna be interesting how that get proposed. Any other questions or comments? All right. Could we have roll call vote?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linda, yes.
Davist,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
All right, moving on to a petition 4605, the rezoning from F district farming to E3 district, a state residential to allow existing home to be split off from the remaining farmland.
Okay, this is your third and final petition this morning, and Blair's putting up the PowerPoint for that, I think. Yeah, okay, we'll go to that. Okay, thank you. This is the Daryl Harner Trust rezoning F district farming to E3 district estate residential. This is its location on the zoning map. Everything is hashed is within the village of Sugar Grove. Everything in white is zoned F district farming. Here it is on Wheeler Road. So on the 2040 land use map, it's an area indicated for resource management area. That's our most flexible land use planning area. It anticipates that properties that are in that part of the land use plan that are unincorporated may possibly be developed and annexed to a municipality. It could be for a variety of uses from residential to mixed use to commercial, depending on the trending character and needs of the area. In this case, the areas continue to be farmed, and they do want to split off this home from the rest of the farmland. Here it is in the aerial. You can see the Aurora Airport runways to the south, and the parcel in red, which is surrounded by a couple of other farmsteads and then predominantly agriculture. And there's a close-up of the subject existing home, garage, and swimming pool. So here's the plat defining the parcel to be separated and rezoned. Staff recommended stipulations from KDOT that they should reach out to the Village of Sugar Grove for any access related issues, since the Wheeler Road there is part of the under the control of the Village of Sugar Grove. Health Department states that they need to check their current well and septic, and be able to reuse their well if it's up to code, if not, to bring it into compliance. Water Resources has their typical stipulations. Again, this is an existing home and garage on this particular site. Staff recommended comments that the rezoning will allow the existing single-family home to be split off from the remaining farmland. And this is typically the most common use of the F1 or rezoning, in this case to E3, since it's in a more developed area. Regional Planning Commission, not applicable. Zoning Board of Appeals approved with their recommended stipulations, and it's for your consideration this morning.
Can I get a motion a second?
Berman moves for approval.
Williams second.
All right, Williams. I think we have a speaker for this. I don't know if they want to speak. They might be online.
Hello, my name is Stacy Ludwig. I'm the petitioner for this particular rezoning. I just wanted to be available today to answer any questions that the board may have.
All right. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes. All right, moving on, going to C, starting off with our demolitions of dangerous and unsafe buildings.
Good morning, Mark Van Kerkhoff again. This morning, there are 3 resolutions in your packet that we will, after I do a presentation about the program, ask for you to vote on and move on to the executive committee and full county board. But I have a short presentation just on the background, both in the program in general, and then these 3 properties. So this is our department's demolition of dangerous and unsafe buildings program. This was really kicked off in 2013 when the county board allocated $218,000 from the Grand Victoria Riverboat funds to be dedicated for the demolition of dangerous and unsafe buildings. This is in a separate fund that was seeded by that money. Fortunately, in 2017, we were awarded our first of a series of grants from the Illinois Housing Authority to reimburse costs for demolition. This is reimbursed $123,660 to Kane County to replenish the fund. So in a sense, this is because of those reimbursement grants from the state. This allows the county to be reimbursed and keep that fund at a healthy balance in order to continue to pursue demolitions. In 2019, we were awarded an additional $250,000 grant that is reimbursed almost $26,000. And then 2021, we were awarded our third of those, and that is to date has granted reimbursed us another almost $19,000. What's been nice for with these grants is it's alleviated the need for staff to go back to the Grand Victoria Riverboat Fund and request additional dollars because we've been able to get that originally seeded money reimbursed from the state grants. So just a report on some results since November of 2018. We've obtained 18 court orders that are with it. 18 court orders have been pursued. Of those, 3 were demolished by Kane County. 11 were demolished by the owner, 2 were rehabilitated by the owner, and 2 are ongoing demolition cases. What this shows us that 13 of the 15 were addressed by the owner just due to the pressure from potential court order on it. So it's been an effective program to get action on these properties, and we greatly appreciate the work of our team as well as the state's attorney's office. So generally, the process of this is first, we are constantly in the process of identifying the worst of the worst. So if you have any that you're aware of in your district, let us know. We also typically get complaints from neighbors from time to time, although some of these are beginning to be more and more isolated, not necessarily visible from neighbors. as well as we often will hear about these from township assessors or township highway officials, a number of different routes. So we're in the second step of this, where we're asking the county board to adopt a resolution by state statute. That's the first step in for counties to seek a court order for demolition. The second step would be the state's attorney files a petition in the circuit court. The owners and all the lien holders are notified. Then it goes to court and hopefully a court order is obtained. After that, then we go ahead and work with our purchasing department to solicit bids for demolition or securing the property. Then once those bids are awarded, actually go through with the demolition or securing of the property. Liens are filed against the property for the county's costs, so that if the property is ever sold, those funds are returned to the county into the fund. And then those funds go back to the demolition fund. So this morning we have 3 resolutions, one in Aurora Township, one in Elgin Township, and one in Burlington Township. First one is on 1379 Pearl Street. It's been vacant since 2018. It's uninhabitable. It's a dangerous structure. It's infested with vermin, mold, and garbage. There also has noxious weeds and overgrown vegetation. It is a private owner. The property is currently open and not secured. Here's some photos from the exterior and the interior. You can see it's in pretty rough shape. The second one is 9N 700 Beckman Trail. It's also been vacant since November of 2021. It was a private owner who is now deceased. The pipes have burst inside the house and some of the ceilings are caving in to inoperable vehicles. Neighbors have been complaining, although they have been maintaining the yard. And the property was secured by the lender. And here's some photos of this property. And lastly, 13N 341 Rompkey Road, also vacant, a private owner. House has broken windows, are open to the elements. In addition, there's a barn on the structure, which much of the roof has collapsed and has holes in other areas that are open to the elements, and the yard has become overgrown. And here's some recent photos of those structures. So they have the 3 resolutions authorizing application to the circuit court for the demolition of these dangerous and unsafe structures. And those 3 resolutions are in your packet.
Mr. Chairman, can we handle those all at once?
That was gonna be my question. I believe we can, because they're all under the same. You know, we can, you know what, let's just go ahead and break them down one by one, just in case.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
advise you to vote on all 3.
Yes, we'll break them down. All right, starting with the first one, with 1379 Pearl Street in Aurora Township.
Kenyon would move that.
Can you move?
Linder second.
Berman seconds. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is
Yes,
Caius.
yes.
Just a general comment in that when I first became a board member about 4 years ago, this program was used to, we're fortunately one of those of the 2 that were rehabilitated. So it works as a good leverage, not only to remove it's great for removing, but it's also leverage to have the owner, if it's salvageable and they so choose to do that, you can bring them back into compliance. And so it's a really handy tool. Just
All right. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
But they can also choose to demolish it themselves.
Yes.
So
Yes.
probably cheaper.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
Mr. Doherty, you broke up. What was that?
That's a yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
Passes. Moving on to the number 3 is location 9 North 700 Beckman Trail in Elgin Township. Can I get a motion to second?
Doherty moved.
Can you move Doherty seconds? Any questions or comments?
Tepe here.
Go ahead.
Mark, I somewhat surprised at this. This is in my district. I know that little neighborhood. I'm kind of surprised that the bank would let it go that far without doing something about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have had a number of these through the program where the bank is not taking action, particularly if they're not taking action fast enough. It hit some of these cases, and depending on the neighborhood, where sometimes the bank will take action or somebody will purchase it to rehab or purchase it to tear it down. But it does take a while for this to go through our process and to file a court order. And oftentimes that amount of pressure is enough to get things done.
And how much time would it take roughly from now to get things filed to where demolition would actually start?
Ideally, probably the quickest would be about 3 to 4 months, but sometimes these take up to 6 or 9 months, depending on cases like this where the owner's deceased. If there's, issues with the estate or getting people noticed, finding who's responsible parties.
Understand. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linda, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Passes.
All right. Then the last one, which is in Burlington Township.
I would move that one, Kenyon.
Caius, second.
We got a motion to second. Any questions or comments? And then roll call vote.
Berman, Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linda, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
Planning and special projects.
Good morning again. This is the last item from me. This is our planning division report. We do a lot of these activities and report in more detail to several other committees. But as our department reports to the County Development Committee, we put this report just so you have an idea of what our team is doing. Happy to answer any questions. I would recommend you keep a specific eye in the next number of months on the Fabulous Fox Water Trail, with a lot of exciting developments coming with that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or just have you put it on file at the end of the meeting.
All right. Any questions? Seeing none, we're just gonna move on with it. All right, on down to our subdivisions. We have Mill Creek with minor adjustments for I believe swimming pool decks and patio setback reduction. All yours.
Good morning. I'm Deanne Orlick with Water Resources. Your first item up today is out in Mill Creek. We've got a PowerPoint as soon as we can get that moving forward here.
I think you can just advance. There you go.
Oh, there we go. So this is an adjustment for both the pool as well as the pool deck, as well as a sport court that is proposed for the site. And just to refresh your memory, out in Mill Creek, the required setback for a pool is 20 feet from the rear yard, and all the pools and decks, the required setback is 10 feet. We're over here off of Hughes Road in Harrington. You can see the great big star that's on the parcel there. It backs up to the open space of detention pond. A little closer viewpoint here, you can see there's a couple of neighbors in the cul-de-sac and the detention pond that is behind this residence. When we originally received the site plan from the owner, this is what was submitted. There was concerns from Water Resources in that there's a significant area of impervious that was proposed for the site. In discussions with the owner, all of the gray area around the pool will now be constructed out of pervious pavers. So in actuality, the only new impervious introduced to the site will be the sport court, which is located over here, as well as the pools over here. And this, once that agreement was met with the owner, we sent out for our notification of the neighbors as well as jurisdictions. We did receive comments from one neighbor as well as from Shodine. The owner has been working with Shodine, and as of yesterday, was able to secure a new site plan that Shodine has approved, in which the sport court is reduced, and it's also sent a little further back. The remainder of the parcel as was originally proposed. The neighbor that did not want to be identified was concerned about 3 items. One was the noise that the sport court might generate. The second was a concern about the drainage. And the third was the closeness of that sport court to the property line. We did review, as Water Resources would, we did review the drainage. The drainage area that's coming in between these 2 lot lines, both the north as well as the one on the west, is less than 2 acres. And any surface drainage that might occur in our heaviest of rainstorms would be easily controlled within that 10-foot easement that is along those side yards. So with the new site plan here, Shodine agreed to sign off on the site plan. And we have this here before you today. The proposed adjustment does not increase the overall density of the PUD. It does not decrease open space. Brick pavers, as I said, will be constructed around the pool itself to reduce the impervious area. And jurisdictions and neighbors have been notified. And as I said, we did receive 1 comment from 1 neighbor. The owner is in the audience if you have any questions of him.
Any questions or comments?
I have a couple
Go ahead.
comments.
Go ahead.
William speaking. So this is my district. Mr. Berg is a petitioner. He reached out to me, invited me to come and visit the property, which I did last week. I think he's taken adequate steps to make sure that the impact on his neighbor will be minimal. I did receive an email from his neighbor who raised the issues that Deanna mentioned a moment ago. I'm confident that with the inclusion of the permeable pavers, his relocation of the sport court, making it a little bit smaller, and the existing screening there, it would have a minimal impact on the visual sightlines of his neighbors. The noise issue, that's something we all live with neighbors. I have unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I have a neighbor who has a trampoline right by my property line, and their kids jump out there till 10 o'clock at night. And, so I just go inside when that happens. So I support the request. And I think we've set this precedence in Mill Creek for other property owners who back up to open space, that we've allowed the variance from the setback line. So I think we should do that here.
All right, go ahead.
Linder here. Do you intend to light the sport court?
Yes, that's why.
If you would still give your name and
Yes,
address, can you give your name first?
Sorry, David Berg, I'm the petitioner. and the owner.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to orientate the sport court the way it is, so the light pointed towards my house and not towards the neighbors. And so that's, the original plan had it, elongated the rectangle that way, so it would go towards me, and then I just shortened it, so moved it away from her home a little bit, didn't encroach as much, and then the light's still gonna go towards our home. So,
Thank you.
yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Are we supposed to vote on this, or is it just a vote on? Okay. Can we get a roll call vote?
Motion and second.
I thought we had a motion. Oh, motion and second, I'm sorry.
Caius move.
Caius moves.
Berman second.
Somebody.
Roll call vote, please.
I
any
want to just say
questions?
one
Go
thing.
ahead,
We
go
got
ahead,
a
go
motion and stuff. Just encourage you to use, when you do your lighting, use the dark sky affirmed lighting to investigate that and check that out. It's good.
I'm trying to take all precautions to limit any impact.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon, Linder,
Linder, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Dice, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
All right, we have a resolution to name an ingress egress easement within the Silent Oaks subdivision.
Yes, we have been a proposed residence that is, there we go. Within the Silent Oak subdivision, which is this 4-lot subdivision down here kind of outlined in blue. Now, this subdivision is off of a private drive by the name of Burr Road Lane, which comes off of Burr Hill, or Burr Road, and Burr Lane goes along east-west here. When this homeowner or this property owner came in to try and construct a new residence on the parcel, emergency operations had an issue with their addressing nomenclature. They were concerned that it would be difficult to actually locate accurately the lot that was requesting the assistance from emergency. As such, we went back to the subdivision plat, and the little roadway here that comes down here is within a ingress egress easement, and it's not identified as having a name. So emergency operations suggested that we name the little finger of road so that it can be easily identified in the event that there would be an emergency. So as the subdivision is named Silent Oaks Court is not a street currently used within Kane County, and we are recommending that the board approve the naming of this easement to be Silent Oaks Court.
All right.
Berman moves.
Berman moves.
Approval.
Williams second. Any questions or comments? No questions or comments?
Marty.
Wow, okay, go ahead.
So does this affect King County maintenance requirements?
No, it does not, sir. These are private roads, and it's up to the owners. This is within an ingress egress easement that actually has a recorded maintenance obligation for the 4 landowners that would be using that access.
Okay, so just because we're naming it doesn't suddenly shift that responsibility.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we're just naming this for identifications.
Exactly. It's primarily for emergency access identification.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Dice, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Environmental resources.
We don't have anything today for environmental or water resources.
All right. Now we at the Office of Community Reinvestment. We have a resolution before you for amending the Housing and Community Development Consolidated Plan. And I believe, is this Scott?
Yes, good morning, Chairman Ford and members of the committee. On page 118 of your packet, you'll find a resolution, as you just said, that amends our Housing and Community Development Consolidated Plan. You might recall that our current plan covers program years 2020 through 2024. The plan lays out our priorities and objectives for the use of federal funds in the areas of community development, housing, and homelessness. Each year, we do amend the plan to identify the new priorities for the year ahead. And for program year 2023, which begins on June 1st, we do expect to have just over $8.1 million in a combination of new federal funding, as well as program income generated from the sale of real estate that's been redeveloped in prior years. Behind the resolution on page 121, you'll find an executive summary of our 2023 amendment, which outlines how those funds are going to be used. So that does conclude our overview of the resolution that we have before you, and we're asking you to approve that resolution and send it on to the executive committee. Thank you.
All right.
Kenyon would move it.
Motion by Kenyon, second.
Berman, second.
Berman seconds. Any questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Williams here. The appropriation of $8,137,000, is that all federal funds or is that county funds as well?
Most of it is federal funding. However, our Continuum of Care program, which focuses on homelessness, also relies on some funding from the cities of Aurora and Elgin, which are our partners in that program, as well as some modest fees that we charge for the generation of customized reports to the agencies that participate in our Continuum of Care. Again, the Continuum of Care is kind of a roundtable of agencies that in some way, shape, or form serve our homeless population.
Thank you.
Pepe, go ahead, Pepe.
How does one apply for this, or how will they find out about this?
So this is a group of programs that takes applications typically annually. Our Community Development Fund entertains proposals from municipalities and nonprofit agencies once a year. Typically, that application process kicks off in December. The affordable housing program that we manage, the Affordable Housing Fund, typically takes applications once a year, and that kicks off usually in the late spring, early summer. And then finally, our Continuum of Care homeless program entertains proposals and applications from nonprofit agencies up and down the Fox Valley in the spring for allocations that are finally awarded around the beginning of the following year.
So who are some of the recipients of these organizations in the past?
So if you take a look at page 123 of your packet, you'll see that we've identified a number of projects that are set to receive funding under our community development program, including a couple municipal projects, as well as our housing programs, our homeless management information system, and of course, our program management costs. Under the home consortium section of that document, you'll see that we've set aside the bulk of our funding in our Affordable Housing Fund. That's to provide gap financing under flexible terms to both nonprofit and for-profit developers to develop and redevelop housing. And then finally, on page 124 of your packet, you'll see that we've laid out the uses of the Continuum of Care funding for our homeless management information system, as well as our annual application cycle to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
So are these funds going to organizations or individuals, or how do they get to an individual?
It's actually a combination of both. You'll see the very first item that we've budgeted is our owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program. Individual homeowners who are income eligible and have needs in the areas of home maintenance, new roofs, furnaces, and that kind of thing, make application throughout the year. And we serve those individuals on a first come, first qualified, first served basis. We announce funding opportunities to our municipalities once a year, so that typically our municipal public works departments or parks departments typically make application for community development funding. And then we do announce soft financing for the development of housing through our website once a year.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Chris?
Yeah, this is Caius. Scott, does for an applicant to apply, is there some assistance that would help maybe somebody that's challenged with performing the duties necessary to get a submission for the application to get the money?
Yes, we do provide staff assistance to individuals that are interested in the program, answer questions they might have, and offer tips and advice on how to perfect an application for funding.
Okay, they just contact your office?
That's correct.
Thank you.
This is a very good program for our, I know we got a lot of new board members, but we got to find a way to get the word out so they can make use out of it. Any other questions or comments?
Gordy.
Go ahead.
Page 124, what's 91,000 for ESG fees? What's the ESG?
Okay, so one of the funding opportunities that the nonprofit community has access to is referred to as the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. That's a federally funded program that is delivered by the Illinois Department of Human Services. When agencies in our geographic area, which includes all of Kane County, as well as the entire city of Elgin, including that part that's in Cook County, as well as Aurora, including those parts that are in Kendall, Will, and DuPage counties, make application and receive awards under that program, they're expected to provide reports regarding the clientele that they serve. That information is contained in our homeless management information system, and those reports that they require are customized for their use. So we do charge modest fees to generate those reports because we incur expenses to make those reports for them.
Great, thanks, Dad. If you, just for us that don't know all your acronyms, on some of these reports, could you just spell them out once? So, I mean, some of them you actually read off when you were discussing them, but some you didn't. So if there's room, could you just kind of give us all the words sometimes?
Absolutely, and I'll take note of that and certainly spell those acronyms out. You have to forgive me, in my world, we almost speak fluently in acronyms.
Of course,
So
yeah.
I apologize for that.
Thanks for your understanding. Yeah, it's just, new to me.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions or comments? We did have a motion to second, right? Yes, yes. All right, Cindy, there's no other. Can we get a roll call vote?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
Passes. Do we have any new business? All right. We have no need, as far as I know, for executive session. Can I get the magic?
We adjourn.
Second.
Unanimous, right? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Same sign.
What's the
See you
You didn't quite
next.
equal.